Welcome to Warmaster Podcast. Today I'm going to talk about Warmaster Journal 2024, how it exists, why it exists, and have a little bit of a look at what's inside it. So at the beginning of this year, I was concerned that there was quite a lot of pressure brewing within the structures of the experimental forum that then feeds into the Warmaster Revolution's Rule Committee forum, and there was basically pressure to bring new stuff or bring changes or variants into the game that I didn't think our current structure could handle particularly well. So, as a pressure valve, because it seemed to be that the only way anybody considered anything official, not that there's anything official about the Warmaster Revolution Rules Committee, was that they went through that and had a seal of approval. But most of the things that have been adopted as optional rules have come through like an organic process of people using them in their events, and then more and more people liking them and using them, and then finally there's been some level of adoption. So the Warmaster Journal was basically a place for 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 people to be able to put stuff after it had been like discussed on the experimental forums or discussed within play groups or whatever, but without the need to go through the rules committee. So a place to keep pushing the game forward without the necessity for everything always to have to wait through the voting period and to go through the rules, the kind of annual votes and stuff. So hopefully it works. I mean, it isn't confined to Warmaster Revolution at all. And we did have Janice did something for Ancients for us. And I mean, if the French guys want to post stuff up on here, or Jim with his Ancients Plus rule set, or his Westeros rule set, or if somebody does Napoleonics or War of the Rings. I know there was the Battle of the Five Armies. Whatever. I mean, it's come all. And in the notes below, whatever you call it, I will post a link for this updated version of the journal, and also an email address if people want a shortcut having to go through the experimental forum and get in touch, and then we can discuss what's going to happen in 2025, because this is not a one-off publication. Hopefully it will be something that happens every year. But anyway, I was a bit of a magpie as far as art was concerned, so I was basically looking around for art that was out of copyright, like hundreds of years old or whatever, and then I would shoehorn them in here to kind of make things look pretty. And I kind of aimed for a medieval text in the look and design. But anyway, the cover here, I've forgotten the name of it now. I should research. Is it called the Druid or something? For some reason I think it's a Welsh picture. I might be just talking rubbish, but I kind of like it. I kind of like, the kind of medieval fantasy vibe going on in there. There's a kind of Cyclops on the hill and a castle in the background. I can't claim any credit for it. I just went and found it on Wiki. And then we'll get into thank you to John. Sorry, thank you to Peter Lamb for creating the logos. They're very nice. And hopefully you'll do that going forward, at least the 2025, 2026 and onwards, because the Warmaster Journal's obviously done now, so they can be carried forward. So we'll have a look at the main document, which is here, and it has a contents. So we'll have a brief look through here, but we'll talk about them as we go through the individual articles. So it's completely done by people just giving their time and love. And we have a disclaimer here that I stole from Matt K, that he used when he did the command cards to say, I mean, we're not claiming it. I'm pretty sure the Warmaster and Warmaster logo and stuff have lapsed now, because the IP was ages ago and they haven't done anything to protect them. So I'm pretty sure it's gone, but we're in no way are we trying to get involved in any kind of IP disputes with GW. If they want it back, it's theirs. So it's just a kind of disclaimer to say we're not interested in eating anybody's lunch, with or without permission. No challenge to their status is intended. All rights reserved to the respective owners. Long may it continue. And then the first one was an introduction by me. I'm not one to blow my own trumpet, so if you want to read through this, then do so. If you want to ignore it, do so. I find self-aggrandization quite a difficult thing. So one thing this is the only change. This is a new version. with a new date on it. The only change was I managed to spell Priestley wrong in the original one. I forgot the last E between the L and the Y. Bad me. So this is corrected now. And as I say, there'll be a link to the drive below. I'm not sure I'll bother Alish with it, because I mean it's only literally one letter in one word, and the rest of the feedback I didn't get anything back. I mean, I'm not on Facebook, so I didn't see all the feedback, but I didn't get anything back about anything major. So certainly nothing worth a rewrite and republishing. Okay, so we had a list of all our Rules Committee members from the beginning. So at the moment, I'm chairman, Alish, Dave and Chris are vice chairman. And then we got representation from the Czech Republic, Denmark, Germany, Finland, but he's retired. 3 from Poland, a couple from Sweden, 2 from the UK, apart from me and Chris. And then a big 5 plus Dave from the USA, although Peter's retiring. So thanks to Paulie and Peter for your work. And they've been replaced by Adam and Alejandro from Canada and Spain, respectively. So if you know these people are they're part of your community, then speak to them. They now have a voice on the 21, and they can help push your case. So, not that everything, as I said at the beginning, not that everything needs to go through the Rules Committee to be official. I mean, some people, I think it was in the Polish community, were playing 3 rounds of combat, 3 rounds of melee rather than the 2 that's capped. I mean, if you can house rule whatever you want in your tournaments. I mean, it's like Burger King; you have it your way. We're just here to try and give you the base game, but the things you want to do within your tournaments, the scenarios you want to play, that's completely up to you. So retired members, we've got Nathan from Australia, Christoph from Belgium, Petra from Poland, Janis and Jim from the UK, 2 of the godfathers of the UK game, and obviously the 2 that are leaving this time, Paulie and Peter Lamb. Okay, so that's quite a nice thing to kind of, maybe I'll keep that going forward, and we'll have a list of retired members and stuff, and we'll always keep that going until it gets too long. And then Chris Orr compiled our votes. So every year we have a set of votes. I've got to be upfront and say that the vast majority, if not all of the votes, are around army lists. We don't really get into the rules document. There are a number of reasons for that, not least of which is that the rules document took a lot of work and it cost quite a lot to print, and it's not something that I anticipate us changing frequently. So I think a cycle of 4 or 5 years is what we should be aiming for. People don't really want to have to reprint rule books every year. The army list you print at your own peril. I've got to be honest with you. You know that from even if you've been playing the game for 1 or 2 or 3 years, you know that the army lists have a tendency to change. That's just the nature of army lists. I'm not ever going to say we're going to be trying to produce balanced lists, because balance in a lot of respects is the kind of the enemy of fun. So you have to have a bit of non-balance in there to create interest. And we have to try and make sure there's nothing like completely lunacy, like way out, overpowered or underpowered. You have to try and create a nice, like metaverse. What do you call it? Like a metagame or whatever you want to call it. So you've got a nice environment to play in with nothing too far out on the edges, but you don't want it to be so everything's just a different color of the same army, because then what's the point? You're just playing chess with different colours. So anyway, Chris then goes through a process every year of compiling the votes that we make, and he goes through, and I've just this document's been released every year, but this year I put it into the book, so there's a place that you can go back and look at it year after year after year, and you can see how many times the things we keep going back to, like the raised dead spell, which is a never-ending battle, because every time you change it, somebody finds a corner case that then you have to go back and change, and then rinse and repeat year after year after year. I don't know how many times we've changed the raised dead. So we got the 360 rule. That's just tidying up how stuff works. When there was a little bit of in the game, because things came from different places and different eras, so there's quite a lot of things that had the same rule, but it was worded slightly different. So there's a little bit, and I'm not talking about keywording or anything silly, but there's a little bit about cleaning up and trying to make things, if they are the same, to kind of be worded the same. So people can't say, why is this written differently to this? Because they really shouldn't be. So there's a bit of unifying the 360 rule, unifying the detachment special rule. There is a slight error in here, but it's not my error. It's not, because people say, "Oh, there's an error in the journal." Well, it's not. It's not in the journal, because this is not this document isn't the journal. It's in this document, and that's around. It mentions that detachments. There's there. Okay, so wanted it in the detachments. Detachment stands are not deployed as independent units. Instead, any infantry unit, apart from fanatics, may add one stand of detachment. This brings the size of the unit to 4 stands rather than 3, plus the detachment stand. I think there is an issue with good old witch hunters. I think there's an issue with witch hunters and fanatics, that they are allowed the skirmisher stand in effect. I think they are allowed warhounds or something, as it says there. And they are fanatics, so I think there's an issue there. But I mean, it's only a minor issue. Nobody plays witch hunters anyway. I've only ever seen one army, and that was Janner's, and of course he won the event playing them. And then we had this was a relatively big change, I guess. The Gauls changed their name. Sorry, the Beast Herd changed their name to Gauls, and the Herdkin changed their name to Ungauls. I think that's to fit in with the fluff of the era where Warmaster was generated, rather than anything. I think it's just a kind of a fluff thing. And we also changed the profiles. So Gauls become Orc boys, and Ungauls become just like crossbowmen, but they can. Oh no, they got 15 centimeter shooting, so not quite crossbowmen, but they're allowed to ambush, obviously, still, because that's their bag. There was a Beastman spell change. Sorry, I'm going to go up and down. Chaos Knights. I mean, this change should have happened last year, but because there was an argument about whether they should be limited to 2 or unlimited, it didn't get through. And now they're limited to 2, which is I mean, they were the only unit, because they were limited to 4. Not unlimited, sorry. It was effectively unlimited, because once you had 4 units of these at 200 points, and the minimum Chaos Warriors and the Beastmen and your General, you couldn't actually field 8 units of Chaos Knights anyway. So the limit of 0-4 was irrelevant, because you couldn't actually field them. So the real argument was, should it be 0-3 or should it be 0-2? And I think 0-2 is probably the best idea. I mean, anybody playing with more than 4 units of Chaos Knights is not really playing for a nice game anyway, are they? Some change in artillery. I don't know actually how that snuck through. I mean, sometimes things get through and you kind of you make your vote and it doesn't go the way you want, and it's democracy, so we move on. I didn't think that having like as many artillery as the Chaos Dwarves did have was a good idea anyway, because artillery batteries can again be a kind of negative play experience. You either get rid of them, and if they're a big enough artillery battery, or 2 batteries in this case, because they could have with bolt throwers, they could have like 8 pieces of artillery, or whatever, 8 units of artillery. So you either get rid of the artillery and win the game because they've lost so much break, or you don't get rid of the artillery, and if the game goes on long enough, you're just going to lose to the artillery because they're just going to decimate you. Lamassu, I mean, that was just too. I'm not going to go through too much of this, actually. Why am I going through this again? We've done it as a podcast, and Ian's been through it, so there's no point me going through that. The rules are here, the changes are here. So if you want to know where the changes are, the ones that we made this year, then there it is. Now, the next one. Ian did a massive piece of work compiling all the FAQs, and he actually posted up asking for FAQs, so we had to do some extra work on kind of deciding on how to answer FAQs, because lots of the issues with FAQ come from the fact that English as a language is particularly difficult. Oh, I found another Rick Priestley spelling mistake. Look, I found one that wasn't even, and it's not mine. So it says here, why aren't more units for Warhammer Total War in the army list? Warmaster Revolution seeks to preserve the original game design by Rick Priestley, without the E at the end, and I didn't put that in. I just copy and pasted it from Ian, so he can own that one. And now I'm going to have to, I can't post up this because I can't have a spelling mistake in it, so I'm going to have to go and edit it and then repost it up. So at some point in the future, below this link will be another version of the Warmaster Journal 2024 without that second spelling mistake. And if I spot any more, then I'll correct. But it seems to be this on the Priestley's what the ones that's killing us. So anyway, so Ian went through and prepared this massive FAQ document. I don't anticipate it being this big every year. I'm certainly not going to reprint this every year. It's like we'll reprint it, and then if something changes, then maybe we'll have to say that this replaces the FAQ from Journal 2024 or something. I don't know. We'll deal with that next year. We did a good job of, I guess these are from the Tabletop Simulator, aren't they? The pictures. That's pretty cool. And it just talks about how to do pursues and charges and stuff. And we've got line of sight questions. This is good stuff. This is something that, I mean, it has been kind of, I guess, if you search through it, would have been available. But now you've got one place to refer back to. It doesn't supersede the rulebook. So if there's an error in here that and you find something in the rulebook that contradicts this, then go with the rulebook, because the rulebook never lies. So he'll anyway. I'm not going to read through this too much, but thank you, Ian, for preparing this, and thank you to the Rules Committee for getting it to where it needed to get to. Loads and loads and loads and loads of good stuff. Some more stolen art. Right, and that's the end. So thanks a lot for Ian. Oh, another bit of art there. Good stuff. I think they might actually go together, those last two pieces of art. It's like two bits of the same art spread over 2 pages. Right, and Janice then did, I asked Janice if he could do something on Ancients. I haven't played Ancients more than a couple of times. I can't say I really enjoy it, but maybe I just need a different mindset, because lots of the things that allow you to like break lines or win games or do stuff, for want of a better word, in fantasy don't exist. So there are no flyers, there's no artillery, there's no magic. A man is a man and is a man. You might have a man on a horse or a man on a chariot, he's still a man. So there's lots of people fighting with similar stuff in similar tactics. So I find it quite difficult. But maybe I just need to play more. Anyway, so if you're interested, and please do read all these articles, because people did spend time and effort producing them. So Janice did us a fantastic article on Ancients. And as I say, Jim is working on something called Warmaster Ancients Plus. So fingers crossed next year we might have a bit more update on that. Which would be fantastic, because I think he's actually rewriting it. So he's making what was a pretty hefty document into something much less wordy. I do love the wordiness of Rick Priestley. That is, it's kind of my. I find I'm in awe actually of his writing style. But some people find it overly verbose, overly like kind of wordy, and a little bit light-hearted. But I love that. I mean, we're not here to like replicate real war, are we? There's enough of that going on in the world. We don't need to replicate it. And then Christopher, who's one of our Swedish kind of members of the committee, he did a Tactica on, I think it's Empire, isn't it? Yeah, doing Sigmar's work. Of course it's Empire. And basically just his take on how to play Empire. Thanks a lot, Christopher, for writing that. And then Martin, he said he was going to do this, because Martin's now started to do some kind of podcasts and videos and stuff. He's a Rules Committee member as well from Sweden. He was going to do this as some kind of animated video on YouTube or something. Anyway, I think the scale and the scope of it got a bit out of hand. And luckily, when I asked him if he had something he wanted to put in, he said he put this in, which is an amazing bit of work. So he's actually produced a battle report. Using the kind of, he describes the scenarios and he describes the armies, and this is brilliant. It looks even better here than it does on paper, because the resolution's fantastic, but when you're printing in A4 or even A5, if you're going down, it's quite hard to see the little symbols of the different units, the bad moons and the wolves on the left, but yeah, with it being a PDF, you can get it on your tablet or your laptop and zoom in as much as you want. I just love how dynamic he made it look, and how colourful. So I mean, this was probably Maybe Ian's FAQ, but this was probably the thing that took the most amount of work, I guess, for the person contributing. So it was him or Ian when the who put themselves through the most to get an article together for this. Yeah, those two. So good. Thanks to you two in particular, fellas. So hopefully you enjoy this, and if you do, please feed back to Martin, because if he's done it once, he may have learned some stuff to be able to do it again. And yeah, it really is an impressive piece of work. So we'll zip through this now, and then we'll see what our next article is. It's such a big piece of work. I did have a small issue. You probably can't tell, but you'll tell now I've pointed out that some of the pictures I was importing were getting slight borders and some of them weren't. And I don't really know, because I'm not experienced enough using desktop publishing to know what was causing that. It was probably my workflow that was causing some of them to have partial borders, some of them to have full borders, and some of them to have no borders. But I'm sorry if I've spoiled it. See, here you go on this page. You've got. I would have imported them in a very similar way, but we've got the guy at the top with no border, the guy on the right with top and bottom border, and the guy on the bottom left with all border. And it's like, my workflow wouldn't have been any different on that page, but somehow we've managed to get, completely different look. Anyway, Warmaster Escalation campaign by Jan. Jan's only joined us. Maybe this was his first voting season. Maybe he joined us back end of last year or something. But again, he's a kind of a full-blooded, very engaged kind of member of the community. So there is. He did a phenomenal piece of work here, which is a kind of a campaign that's mapless. So it's basically around experience points and you kind of getting stuff and spending stuff and toying with the magic items a little bit. I had to say we can't call these new magic items because I don't want people to think that these are like an addition to the rulebook. If you want to use them in addition to the stuff in the rulebook, feel free. It's your game. Do what you want. But I didn't want there to be pressure to expand the amount of stuff in the rulebook, weapons-wise. I mean, even here, Meteoric Iron Mace, 30 points plus 2 attacks. Is it? It's not. I mean, not everything's meant to be like costed to the optimal, is it? But 2 attacks for 30 points. Geez, that's a whole unit, isn't it? 30 points. Okay, and so we have this campaign. Part of this campaign, right at the end, I will talk again, there's like a tracking sheet, but I put that in the end in like a printable section. So thanks a lot, Jan, for putting that together. Strange Bedfellows by Philip Proust. Philip, again, is a recent joinee to our little group. I think he's from Denmark. Oh, please forgive me if I'm wrong, because my memory's not always what it should be. This one caused a bit of controversy, and I don't really understand why. It's probably because people just like to talk on Discord and stuff. And as with everything in life, it's easy to criticise. So it's hard to do stuff and make stuff and put yourself out there to be criticised, but it's very easy to just sit behind a keyboard and say, what's this about? Because I really didn't understand why people couldn't understand that this is exactly the kind of stuff that just would not have seen the light of day without the Warmaster Journal. There was no way this stuff is going through the rules committee and getting voted on and getting passed and getting turned into anything even remotely official in inverted commas. But for me, it's all like, if you want to use it, if you want to... I mean, some of them are slightly overlapping with the Dogs of War, the kind of the list that the Polish fella did. But some of them are completely bonkers. I mean, if you want to use them, you use them. I mean, there's nothing groundbreaking or earth-shaking or anything in it. They're only single units, mostly. But there was maybe the guy was a German fellow as well. I do get some feedback, and one of the bits of feedback was about. Let's see if I can find the. No, so it must be in. It must be here, right? So it's not in those fellows. It's not in those fellows. It must be in one of the Chaos ones. Is this the Pleasure Seekers here? Oh, the Pure Pleasure Seeker. Oh, here you go. Here you go. Demons and the Dark Elves can include the Pure Pleasure Seekers instead of a cavalry unit, but after the battle, the general must make a worthy sacrifice in order to banish them back to the realms of chaos afterwards. Otherwise, they will turn against you. And somebody was saying, well, how does this work in the game? Because the game's ended. How can they turn against? It's just a joke. It's just fun. So go outside and slaughter a chicken, or don't slaughter a chicken, and next game maybe they'll turn against you. It's not meant to be taken serious. It's just like fun. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, onwards and upwards. I was really happy about this one because Justin is an unbelievable painter. I know people. Justin's like really kind of like modest. He says, "Oh, I'm not that good." Justin, you really are very good at painting, fella. But he didn't want to put something about painting. But he said he did have an article about basing, and he did a phenomenal article. I mean, this was brilliant. I had to cut out quite a lot of the pictures because I just couldn't fit it in. But he did a brilliant job, and if you are able to look at the pictures in on a computer or a tablet or whatever, you'll see they're really good pictures, and you can really zoom in and get some fantastic detail. He does some good painting. You've got to remember these are 10mm. I can't even paint this well at 28mm, and I mean, yeah, whatever. He talks about basing and his process, his workflow. It's quite a slow workflow. I mean, he's the opposite to me, but that's why he does good stuff and I don't. So, I mean, look at this. Look at this wolf here. It's beautiful. You could look all day at the eagles. Just phenomenal. And he talks about how this was here. So the eagles. He talks about the fact I've had this exact problem. It's like if you put your eagles on the bases, you will never find a way where they will line up. Never. It's impossible. You might be able to line them up in column, but they're never lining up in line. You can spend that. It's like one of those like finger puzzles. It's just impossible to get them to line up. And what he talks about the fact what he did was he used like rocks or to kind of lift them up so that they fit. I hadn't thought about that, but now I'm going to have to rebase them because that makes like absolute sense. Because the 3D problem is that the wings are all in the same plane, roughly, the same horizontal plane. So you need to get them out of that plane, and that's exactly what he did. So there was, even for me, who's not the greatest painter, and certainly not, I don't spend as much time as basing the stuff as Justin. I did pick up some good tips from here. And as a man once told me in Selwig, when you're playing with 10mm or 15mm stuff, spend as much time on the basing as you do on the painting, because most of the time you'll see more of the base than you do of the miniatures. Because, like, look at this balloon here. You can see almost as much of the base as you can the miniature. So spend some time on the basing when you're doing small miniatures, and it'll forgive a lot of sins. Okay, so this was a fantastic article. Look at those wolf riders. Holy moly. Holy moly. Okay, thanks a lot, Justin. Ollie is German fella. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the countries. So he did some strategic army building. And this again, even though I've played this game a lot and over a lot of years, I haven't heard the command per brigade, like, how would you describe it? The kind of method for building your brigades and your command structure. I haven't seen it as well expressed as this in the whole time I've been playing, and I've been following his rules almost to the letter since I read them, because it makes a lot of sense. And once you start realizing that you're losing games because of not only how you're building your brigades, and maybe building too many smaller brigades unless you're an orc or something, with a million command 8 heroes all over the place. So you've got your 3 or 4, probably 4 combat brigades. Then you need to assign them enough command to work with, and then you've got to have a little bit left over for your flyers and kind of monsters and giants or whatever else you have. So this article was absolutely perfect for me. It kind of explained exactly how I would not that I didn't know what I was doing, but this actually tells you how to do it. So it's an absolutely fantastic article by Ollie, and well done, sir. Okay, he talks about I'm not a big fan of these Orb of Magistries and all the magic items. To me kind of give me a spell scroll, give me a Ring of Magic. I've got something worthy, like a big 6-up spell or something I really need to go off, and fill the rest with swords. I'm not really interested in the rest. You can keep it. So maybe I'll try and do something with some banners, because they have made some, especially with the old Rhinox riders now getting a cheaper 5-up banner. So a cheaper banner of armor, which makes them 4-up. So I might try and use one of those, because they got a bit of a discount as well. So the 20-point discount that they've got might pay for most of the banner and make them a bit tastier. Because the problem with Rhinox riders is they go down too quickly. Now the final one, command cards by Matt. I might look at getting these produced somehow. I don't know how, but maybe I'll have a look at that for 2025. So Matt came up with, I think he like borrowed it heavily from another source. I think he quotes it in here, and so he does, and he tells you how to make them, and inspired by rune cards. I don't know what rune cards is. Copyright Little Wars TV. I guess that's a YouTube channel. And then you got the packs of cards that you just print out on card, cut them up, fold them, glue them, and there you go. Add a bit of variety. So I like the fact they're kind of two sides to the same coin. I guess you can use either side. So it's kind of like, before I roll a dice, that's for the example here. Before rolling dice to determine fallback distance on the target unit, roll one more dice. So I push them back a little bit further, and maybe confuse them a bit more. Well, they got a more chance of confusion. And if it's on mine, I roll less. So roll one less dice. So I like that idea. I like it. It's very clever. And none of it was groundbreaking, but it all sounded like good fun. I don't know how many cards you give out. You decide, don't you? There's a couple of pages of that to print out, and then there's escalation campaign sheet. So, and then that's the end. That's the end. So that was 2024. I've talked for about half an hour. That's plenty. 2025 will maybe be even bigger. Maybe. So if you want to get involved in the Journal 2025, I will put the email address for the Warmaster Journal. I think it's warmasterjournal@gmail.com. Nothing groundbreaking or difficult. I think that's what it is. I'll have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's what I set up. So email on that if you don't want to go through the forums and stuff. And yeah, hopefully 2025 will be at least as good as that. And when I've corrected that new Priestley error, which I'll do after this video, I will then post up a link to this new version with the 2 corrected Rick Priestley with the missing E spelling mistakes. And then I'm not doing any more. So if you want to print it out, then it's not going to get any different to this. Okay. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you thought it was worth my time and effort. And we'll see you in 2025 with the next one.